Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'll take you through the process of drawing and painting this beautiful structure of Jahangir Palace, which is in North in Madhya Pradesh, and I'm making this in my studio today. So I'm going to be using an A3 size 300 GSM watercolor paper, and I have taped it with masking tape on all the four sides over an A3 drawing board. I have basically taped it over the board and not directly on my table, as this gives me the flexibility to move the board around and paint according to the different strokes that I want, and it will accommodate the different styles that I want to do. I normally paint in A4 or A5 size, especially for tutorials, but today I decided to paint this in A3. If you have seen my art retreat video to Orcha, Madhya Pradesh, you will notice this painting was put up during the exhibit on the last day of the retreat. So for the exhibit, all of our paintings were supposed to be in A3 size, which is why I decided to paint this in that. I painted this entire piece while standing because this is what I felt like at that time. I noticed that when I do what my heart desires, I'm able to really get into the flow. I think listening to your inner voice is very important whenever you're creating art. So the first step whenever you're creating any big size painting is to create a composition. You can use a small piece of paper or a tiny sketchbook and create a miniature composition of the illustration that you're going to create, and then you can make it on the larger piece. So here I am creating the illustration on the A3 size. I had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to do. I sketched it out on a small piece of paper, and then I moved on to my larger scale. I love the flow of lines with the pencil, and it helps me to improve my skill. At the end of the illustration, I do feel always that there is room for improvement, and I think that is good because that is what makes us want to move ahead and create more art. It just gets better and better each time. I'm using an airtight palette by Mission. It has about 33 wells. The paints here are a mix of Camel, Mission Gold, Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith. I like to use a mix of brands for the colors each of them offer. Of course, this also means the end result varies in terms of the quality a little bit. I'm starting out with painting the background first. Some tips for doing paintings of large scale is to use bigger brushes. This helps to cover the area much faster and prevents the brush strokes from being shown if you were to use a smaller brush. I'm using these flat brushes of 1.5 and 2 inches. These are by Delaroni, and I think they are perfect for watercolors, especially for large size paintings like this. In fact, I think these will also be pretty good for A4 size and maybe even for A5 if you have to, let's say, cover the entire background. All it will take is just about 2-3 strokes, and it will be very satisfying. Let me know in the comment section if there are any specific type of art styles and strokes that you would want to see, so I can create videos of them for you. Painting in A3 size was a challenge that I took upon myself to figure out multiple things. What are the brushes that would work? What composition is good for this size? What paints do I use? How fast should I paint? How many layers can I paint? And also if this is something I like doing. What I noticed with the background is that it's quite easy to cover larger areas, but you really need the right brushes for it. The flat, large brushes have helped me to cover more area. It's also helped me to give the base layer for my building structure. It's almost like a flow for me right now, where the brush strokes are syncing with the colors I have in my mind. I normally use flat brushes only for acrylics and round brushes for watercolors, but since this structure has a lot of rectangular areas that I can cover with a single color, I'm finding the flat brush pretty useful and quick in this case. Another tip while painting larger surface is to mix more colors in your palette and keep it. If you end up with no color with just one stroke, you will have to mix the colors again, and most of the times it is impossible to recreate the same color when you do it the second or the third time. So it's always okay to mix more color and keep, as you can activate it and use it again, and it doesn't really go waste. I noticed that with large scale oil paintings, it also means that you will have more details. So it is good to start with minimal details and then handle the larger areas, fill those with color, and then move on to adding details slowly as you go layer by layer. base colors are done, and I'm switching over now to a smaller flat brush to add in the details. The colors which are on the palette, which is the plastic palette on the left, appear pretty dark, but then when I do the same color on top of my watercolor paper, you will notice that it's much lighter, and as it dries it becomes even more lighter. So if you're a beginner, what I would recommend you to do is you can use a ceramic palette, and what happens with the ceramic palette, it gives you the real hue or what the actual color is going to look like. Another thing that you can do, which is the cheaper and the much more efficient option, is to have another sheet of paper which is like a rough sheet. Let that be also a 300 GSM watercolor sheet, and apply these swatches of the colors on top of that paper. See how it dries, see how the flow is, and that will give you a very good idea of the color consistency and if it is what you want. There are a lot of ways in which you can go about doing a watercolor painting. This is just a process that I follow and that comes for me very naturally, and it's in the flow that I really enjoy. The only rule you have to remember with watercolors is to go light to dark. That is, if you want to layer up. If not, you can also experiment with paints in any fashion that you like. So one of the ways is where you can sketch it first, ink it with waterproof ink using a fountain pen or a pigment liner or a dip pen, and then add in watercolors to it. The second style is what I've done today, which is first I've done the illustration with pencil, then I'm adding in watercolors, and in the end I am going to add some lines using a dip pen. You can also do another crazy one, which is a personal favorite of mine, where I just paint blocks of colors that I see in front of me. This is especially if I'm going for doing plein air or urban sketching, and then once I add in the block of colors, I use a pen or a pigment liner or even a dip pen with ink to add in the details to it. If you're watching this video and you've come so far, then just go ahead, grab a book and a pencil and start sketching along with me. It is an amazing feeling to draw, and with good company, I think it is even better. There is no rule or a limit for the number of layers that you can add to your watercolor painting. The only thing that matters is the quality of your paper. So a minimum of 300 GSM paper, which is needed for taking in a lot of layers. Anything lesser than 300 would be able to handle just 1 or 2 washes. You can see over here how the structure is now starting to come to life with adding the additional layers, and if you have noticed, the layers now are being added are much darker in color and a smaller brush is being used for them. They are very specific areas that are being covered, and it's also covering much lesser area as compared to the earlier layers. When you're painting and when you're in the zone, it gets very difficult for you to understand when to stop painting. So make it a point to pause your painting every 15 to 20 minutes, look at it from a distance and then decide what it needs. A lot of time the painting is complete in just a few layers, and sometimes you require like 20-30 layers to complete it. Sometimes all you need to do is just let it be, sleep over it, and then just come back. Listen to your heart at that moment and take the call. With more practice and experience, you will start understanding when to stop. It's not mandatory to add black details using a pen in the end. You can also add details with a darker hue in the form of broken lines using your brush. It's your painting and you get to decide what you want to add in it. While painting this, I had also put on some jazz music in the background and was just swaying to the music and painting along. It was a memorable experience and I did not feel the pressure that I had before attempting this size. adding a lot of details. Some of them is using darker brown, some is with darker purple, and I'm really liking how the entire structure is coming to life. You can see that there are different layers attached to it. There's a building which is in the front, there's one small section which is going behind, which is why it has darker shadows, and the one on the front on the right side has much lighter shadows because light is falling on it directly. So it's very interesting for me to do this kind of study, and I'm really enjoying how it's coming from absolutely nothing, a complete blank slate, to a little bit of blocking of colors and then adding of details is happening. Watching a time lapse of a painting is also a very soothing experience. I hope you're feeling the same way that I do whenever I look at paintings that are being made. It's the process which is the most beautiful part. I'm now using a round brush to add in the details, and you can see how it completely pops out when you're using much darker color to add in the details. The background blocking of colors has happened, and now small details are being added inside. My painting is ready, and it's time to add in the details using my dip pen and my calligraphy ink. So this is something that I love doing, which is why I'm adding the details, but your painting is complete even without doing that. So like I was saying earlier, the painting being complete or incomplete is completely a decision of the artist only. So in this case, I want to add in some more details with the dip pen, which is I am doing that. And I think I'm also selfish because this is the most satisfying process ever. So if you're someone who has never tried this before, you can go and watch my other tutorials where I'm reviewing different kinds of pens, and you can choose what works best for you. Watching this process of me inking this illustration is as beautiful as the feeling that I have when I am doing this. The inking is done, I'm doing some final touches to the painting. I'm using my mop brush, which is a really small size, and adding in the shadows wherever required, adding in the darker hues so the entire thing pops out a little bit. With that, it's done and it's time to remove the masking tape. Also, don't forget to sign your paintings once you're done. It's such a beautiful feeling to just sign on the painting once you've completed it, because it gives you a sense of accomplishment. Removing the masking tape also gives a very similar feeling, and you'll have to be super careful when you do that. I'm using a contrasting color, which is a nice beautiful red, to add in my name. I hope you enjoyed today's process and this inspires you to create a lot of beautiful art. I'll see you soon for the next video. Bye bye.